Hello, everybody. Let's attack this challenge question. It was a bit of a doozy because of the fractions we had. All right, and let's do this one without the calculator. With the calculator, it's really not terribly hard because we would just convert our fractions to decimals. All right, but let's do a couple things before we get started. First, let's change the 7 1/5 to an improper fraction. So 5 times 7 is 35. Plus 1 gives us 36 as our numerator. Keep the denominator the same. Let's change this minus sign to adding a negative, just for a good habit that we have. Equals 15/16. Alright, so really guys, this is just a two-step equation that you've been solving for quite a long time. Alright, first we have to undo addition and subtraction, where we're adding 36/5. Now, if you remember the trick that we've used, don't call me after midnight, that'll give us the same first step. Alright, D for distribute, no. C for combine, no like terms on either side. M for move, we don't have to move because D is on one side. Addition or subtraction, yeah, we're adding a 36/5. So to undo it adding 36/5, we have to subtract 36/5 from both sides. There's our zero pair on the left. So on the left, we have negative 3/5 D equals 15/16 minus 36/5. Now that's tricky. So let's go over on the right side. Let's do some scratch work here. So we've got 15/16 minus 36/5. All right. I'm going to change this minus sign to adding a negative so we could use our integer rules, well, our adding rules. 15/16 plus negative 36/5. All right, now, we can't add fractions unless they have a common denominator. Now, 16 and 5, the least common multiple between the two is actually 16 times 5, which is 80. Now, if you guys ever did the butterfly strategy in probably like 4th, maybe 5th grade, all right, we're going to do some cross products, some cross multiplying. So we have 5 times 15, which gives us, oh, what is that? What's 50 plus 25, which is 75? All over our denominator, which is going to be 16 times 5. 16 times 5, well, 10 times 5 is 50. 6 times 5 is 30. So 50 plus 30 is 80. So we've got 75 over 80 plus, we're going to keep that negative sign on the right, 16 times 36. Now 16 times 36, I can't do that in my head. Maybe if I try really hard. So let's do 36 times 16. So I've got 36, carry the 3, 18, 21. Add my 0 for the tens place. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. Add those two together. And we get 576 as our denominator. And we're going to use 80 as our, 576 is our numerator, 80 as our denominator. Now we have common denominators. So we can add our numerators together. Now 75 plus negative 576. That's a little tricky because we're subtracting a bigger number from a smaller number. So we're going to have to use our rules for adding two numbers with different signs. All right. The rule here is keep the sign of the larger. So negative 576 is larger, has a larger absolute value. So our answer is going to be negative. Now we're going to subtract the absolute value of 576 and 75. So we've got to do 576 minus 75. That gives us 501. So 501 is going to be our numerator. We keep our denominator the same, which is 80. And like I said before, we keep the sign of the larger absolute value, which is a negative. So we get negative 501 over 80. Oh my gosh, that was a lot of work for a pretty simple calculation. So we've got negative 501 all over 80. Now we still have this negative 3/5 d. Excuse my wobbly desk, guys. All right, and excuse Frozen in the background. That's the only way I can get work done anymore is to play Frozen. All right, so we just undid our addition. Now we need to undo multiplying or dividing. So we have to undo this multiplying by negative 3/5. So we're going to divide both sides by 3/5. Divide by negative 3/5. All right, so on the left side, that's the identity. You get 1. All right, so we have d equals negative 501 over 80 divided by negative 3/5. Now, when I divide by a fraction, I really multiply by the reciprocal of that divisor. So I'm going to do negative 501 all over 80 times the reciprocal of negative 3/5, which is negative 5/3. I just flipped it. Now, I can multiply. Now, I could cross reduce. I don't think there is any cross reducing here. There may be, but let's multiply straight across. So d equals, all right, 501 times 5. Well, I'm going to have to go down and do this down here. 501 times 5, 5025. So that's 2,505 is my numerator. My denominator is 80 times 3. I can do that one in my head. That's 240. Now the sign of this product is going to be positive because a negative times a negative gives you a positive. Now I could leave it like that if I was lazy, but I'm going to convert this back to a mixed number. So let's do some division. Ooh, long division. 2,505. All divided by 240. All right, 240 doesn't go into 2. 240 doesn't go into 25. 240 does go into 250 once. Subtract. Bring down the 5. 240 doesn't go into 105 at all. At all. So 0 times 240 is 0. So that gives us a remainder of 105. Now let's write that remainder as a fraction, all right? So a remainder of 105 is actually 105 all over 240. All right, so d equals 10 and 105 all over 240. Now, we're still not in simplest form. If I pose this question and said it had to be in simplest form, all right, we would have to simplify this fraction. I know for a fact that both these numbers are divisible by 5 because the top one ends with 5, the bottom one ends with 0. So I could simplify this a little bit down to 10 and, oh, how many times does 5 go into 105? 21. Did that in my head. How many times does 5 go into 240? Oh, I'm going to go over here and do 240 divided by 5. So we've got 48. So 48 is my denominator. Oh my gosh. Now does that reduce anymore? Yes, it does, because they're both divisible by 3. By 3. So my final answer is 10 and 7 all over 48 divided by 3 is 16. So the final answer is 10 and 7/16. That was a ton of work for a fairly simple question. Now if you use your calculator, you probably would have gotten a decimal answer, and your decimal equivalent for D would have been, oh, let's see, 7 divided by 16. 0.4375, so we get 10.4375. All right, that would also be acceptable. Now, that was a lot of work. Now, if I were you guys and I had a choice, I would definitely use a calculator for that one. Probably convert those fractions to decimals. All right, so check your work with my work. Hopefully you guys did okay, and I'll talk to you soon.